How many times do we have to have a highly anticipated game come out, get released, go into Game Pass? Everyone's watching it. Some people want it to fail because it went into Game Pass. Many people want it to do well, and they also want it to go in Game Pass. But let's be honest, there are people out there who are also waiting on these games to fail. I'm talking about the highly anticipated ones now. The ones that everybody looks at the game and they think, wow, why are they putting that game in Game Pass? And they just want the game to fail. How many times do we need to see these highly anticipated games go into Game Pass and not only do well, not only do the developers get the money back from Microsoft, the game goes on to sell very well and to do very, very well. Sorry if you hear that airplane flying above me, but how many times do we need to see this before we start acknowledging that this is a thing, before we start acknowledging that these things actually happen? Some of these games go on to be touted to such a degree that people start talking Game of the Year. We don't need to list these games. We don't need to do that. We're going to focus. We know that these things happen. The question is, how many times does it have to happen before people accept that it happens? Because here's how it goes. The one time that it doesn't happen, it's going to be like those times where it did happen, like that did sell well. It did go on to do very well on all platforms. They made tons of money, like real fast. They got the money back. It's going to be like those things never happen. All it takes is once for one to fail, and people are going to act like the past never happened. Now, I'm not going to read this whole article because the whole article, to be perfectly honest with you, is not interesting. However, when I was reading it, I did find this gibberish right here, this paragraph right here, this incoherent ass paragraph. Very, very interesting, because I'm like, dude, why don't you just speak clearly? Like, even if there's some meaning here, right? Why don't you just speak clearly? If the word, if Game Pass is so bad, just express it in layman's terms, right? You don't need to be all philosophical about telling us about how Game Pass is so bad. If there are people out there who are hurting, like if there are people out there who put a whole lot of money into a game and the game didn't do well. And again, we're not going to focus on, because just because a game doesn't do well, that doesn't mean if the game goes into Game Pass and goes onto other platforms and it doesn't do well on those other platforms, you know, hey, look, Game Pass had nothing to do with that. You went on to all these other platforms, you didn't sell well. Okay, you went on to Epic, you went on to Steam, you went on to PlayStation, you didn't do well. We don't know. I mean, you could say, hey, maybe Xbox gamers would have saved it, but you know, Xbox gamers don't buy games anyway, so maybe they wouldn't have saved it. That's a joke, by the way. But anyway, let's look at this paragraph right here, and let's just, to break it down, let's look at each thing he says. Subscriptions have become the new four-letter word, right? Okay, got that. He's trying to say that subscription services are worth cursing about. They're bad. They're negative. When you think of subscription service, you think of fuck, shit, whatever. Okay? All right, we got it. You don't like it for whatever reason. Okay, next statement. You can't buy a product anymore. Okay. If you can't buy a product anymore, my wallet is wondering what the hell is going on, because I'm still buying a lot of games. Okay. So, I mean, I don't know what you want me to do. I don't know if maybe you think that the number of games I'm buying isn't enough. I've even purchased games out of Game Pass when they go on sale, because I want to make sure, some of them I want to make sure that I keep them, because when they go out of Game Pass, I like them so much, I don't want to stop playing them. I've determined, because Game Pass gave me a chance to play it, and I'm like, hey, look, this is definitely a keeper right here. And no matter what happens with this game, this third-party game, because we know where Xbox games are going to be, this third-party game, I want to make sure that I keep it. When I get ready to download it and come back to it, I want it to be there. Okay, they got a good sale here. I'm going to go ahead and purchase it. So, and there are also other people who are obviously buying games. Some games actually go on to be, people are walking around saying, yeah, like a game that a couple of games went in the Game Pass, people saying, Game of the Year contender. After raving for a couple of weeks about how well they're doing, how many copies they're selling, hey, man, to me personally, that's my Game of the Year contender right there. So we know that people are still buying games, and games that go into Game Pass, highly anticipated games, can not only go on to sell well, but actually have people to express, to me, that is a Game of the Year contender. So we know this. So what else does he say here? When you talk about a subscription that relies on content, if you don't figure out how to balance the needs of the service, okay, what are the needs of the service? The needs of the service are to put great games in there, and there are great games going in there because if great games weren't going in there, first of all, you guys wouldn't be worried about it, and Sean Layden wouldn't be walking around saying that it's a threat to the industry. Because if it was a sucky service with nothing in there worth playing, it would be a sucky service with nothing worth playing, and you guys would not be walking around saying it's a threat to anything. So that's taken care of. And the people running the service. Oh, let me say, okay, let's start over. If you don't figure out how to balance the needs of the service and the people running the service with the people who are providing the content, okay, who are the people running the service? The people running the service are Microsoft employees. They're getting a salary or an hourly rate of pay. They're getting healthcare benefits. They're getting probably a 401k and a pension. And then on top of that, Microsoft is probably, depending on how up they are in the ranking as far as their position, because, of course, the higher you go up, the better benefits you get. So Microsoft might actually be contributing, not only paying a pension, but also contributing to their 401k. That's what my company does. I'm not high ranked at all. So even at my company, at my low level, I'm not only getting a pension, I'm also getting contributions to my 401k from my company. So I wouldn't be a bit surprised if these corporate types were getting the exact same thing. So they're being taken care of. So what are you talking about? Okay, now, with the people who are providing the content, first of all, these developers don't have to make a deal. They don't have to make a Game Pass deal. They don't have to do it. They could walk away from it. If it had such a bad reputation, they're in the industry. I know these people are having all kinds of meetings, or they're having gatherings where they're all together, a developers a convention or something like that, and they're talking, right? If they hear such bad things about Game Pass, they don't have to accept the bag. So there's that. There's that basic fact right there. Also, if Game Pass really was a problem, it doesn't need to be the millionaires who are the face of the spokesman against the service. If Game Pass was really hurting the industry, it should not be someone like Pete Hines, because I don't remember the guy's name, but not long ago, there was a guy on Pete Hines' level who invited employees that he was about to lay off, and I think it was a female employee, to show her all of his $500,000 cars that he had parked in his driveway. Not just one $500,000 car, but multiple $500,000 cars, or they were in that range. I mean, these types in the business just really need to sit down and shut the fuck up. I mean, like, look at Silksong. All these people complaining about Silksong. Wait, I thought we were in the free market. This is capitalism. But it seems like people only like the free market and capitalism when it works exactly the way they want it to. So if somebody comes out and decides, a free market capitalist comes out and decides that he wants to charge $20 for his game, put it in Game Pass, and also put it into other stores to try to sell it, if he as a free market capitalist decides to do that, and also the customers win too because they're getting this fantastic game at such an attractive price, oh, they don't like that. So in other words, If Silksong was at least $50, let's be honest with you, so these guys were given the success of it because, that's the barometer their sick ass is probably used to determine the price of a game. People love it, charge 80. These people just need to sit the fuck down. You're millionaires, dude. You don't need to be preaching to people about how much money we should be charged, because largely you benefit from these exorbitant prices, man. You guys are rich. You guys have cars that cost, let's go low, 300, 400, 500,000. If you have a driveway big enough to park multiple cars that cost $300,000 to $500,000 in it, you also probably live in a house that's probably worth about $5 million. So please, you don't need to be preaching to us about how much money we should spend. And then to come out and basically, let's be honest, they're doing it in a very passive aggressive way, but they're attacking the developers who created Silksong, because they're like, oh my God, what's this gonna do? What kind of messages is gonna send? The first thing you need to do is focus on making sure your game is good, okay? You can charge more than 20, but first you need to make sure that your game is worth $20, first of all. I agree that Silksong probably is worth more than 20, but the thing about it is, you need to stop focusing on that, and you need to start focusing on making a great game. That's what you guys need to be focused on, not trying to tell the developer who created Silksong how much money they should have charged. We just need to realize that in this industry, we have a lot of artists, we have a lot of people who are earnest and who really want to make a great product, who love what they do. But then we also have a bunch of snake oil salesmen who just want to try to make a product just in the hopes that we'll spend money on it. Look what happened with Baldur's Gate. Baldur's Gate came out, you had people in the industry complaining because Baldur's Gate was too good. Are you kidding me right now? Why would you even come out and even imply something like that? These guys were threatened. They were butthurt because they were like, now people are going to expect us to make a game that great. Look, we're not stupid. We know it doesn't work that way. Great games are great games because they stand out above many other games. That's why they're great. We're not idiots out here. So now we have all these free market capitalists out here talking smack to other free market capitalists, because those free market capitalists are charging a decent price for their product. They're charging an attractive price for their product. They're also saying that companies are making games that's too good. Too good for who? I know you're not saying they're too good for us. Well, that's what you have to be saying, because we're the customer base. So free market capitalism is only good when it's raping the consumer. But when it offers the consumer something that's attractive and actually worth the money, then not so much. Now we have to dictate to you what you should be charging. Now we need to dictate to you the bar in terms of quality. Don't go over the bar. And I want to go back to one important point here. If all it's going to take is one highly anticipated game to go into Game Pass and fail, at all the other stores, they're going to blame Game Pass. They're going to blame Game Pass. It's going to be a really big deal. They're going to talk about it for maybe an entire year. All it's going to take is one developer, one reliable, trustworthy developer, just one out of, all the ones who have come out and said, hey, we love our experience with Game Pass. Game Pass was really great for us. All it's going to take is one credible developer to come out and say and speak out against Game Pass. I'm not talking about the ones who've done it, because all the ones who've done it in the past, there have been a few there was one person that said something, one developer, but he turned out not to be credible because his game didn't do good anywhere. That was the game I was talking about early on. So people were like, dude, okay, all right, you're talking about Game Pass, but your game didn't sell anywhere. Your game didn't sell on the Epic Store. Your game didn't sell well on PlayStation. Your game was shit on Steam. So what are you talking about? So what I'm talking about is, if a game comes out and the game is good, one developer, his game does good everywhere else, but somehow people are able to prove that it was that they lost money on Xbox some kind of way, which I don't see how they could if they got a money bag, or maybe the game wasn't highly anticipated and maybe they got a low money bag, because all money bags aren't equal in Game Pass, I'm sure. So maybe they didn't get a lot of money. So maybe it could be proven, if somebody looked deep into it, that they probably could have made more money on Xbox. So all it's gonna take is one. All it's gonna take is one. And all the other examples, all the positive examples for Game Pass, it's gonna be like they never existed. Like stories about them never happened. Like the developers who said that they had a great experience with Game Pass, it's gonna be like they don't even exist, like they never said a word. That's what's so unfair about this situation. So let's read the whole paragraph together, and then I'm gonna tell you what this paragraph is. They have a term for this sort of paragraph, for this sort of way of expressing yourself. Subscriptions have become the new four-letter word, right? You can't buy a product anymore, Hines said. When you talk about a subscription that relies on content, if you don't figure out how to balance the needs of the service and the people running the service with the people who are providing the content, without which your subscription is worth jack shit, then you have a real problem. Okay, you read that all together and you don't break down each statement he's saying, what you have there is what they call a word salad, folks. He's saying a lot of things that individually can be broken down, but all together they create a fantastic, very tasty word salad. He's basically saying nothing, but he's trying to sound like he's really dropping some knowledge. But in the end, he's saying nothing. The reason why is because he knows, like many of us know, that there's nothing negative to say about Game Pass thus far. Now, what's going to happen in the future, I do not know. But I just know that right now, Game Pass is doing very, very well. And I only wanted to do well so that I could continue to benefit from it and my pockets can continue to benefit from it. I give less than a damn about people like Pete Hines and their ability to fill their immense driveway with a bunch of $500,000 cars. And let me go ahead and apologize for any distracting noise that might have been in this video. I'm not really sure how it's going to turn out. I'm actually making this video on my cell phone at a location where there's quite a bit going on around me. But, look, when I get back home, get in the studio and kind of, throw this thing on the editor, I'm going to try to work it out as much as possible. And hopefully the video will turn out to at least be okay. But man, I just got through reading this article, man, and I'm just like reading it like, I can't believe we're still doing this. This is incredible. This rich guy is actually trying to preach to us about how something is too cheap and it's too good and it's so good that it's going to destroy the industry and basically keep millionaires like him from making more millions than they already make. Anyway, guys, until next time, stay safe.